Hey guys, I've recently got Sub-20 and as a result I've gathered a lot of tips that's helped me achieve this goal. In this video I've compiled the resources, tips, and information that I used to help me achieve Sub-20. So let's get into it. So first things first, when I was working on Sub-20, I needed to identify what I needed to work on. To do this, I used JPerm's recommended splits, which I will discuss later in the video. But anyways, my worst area was F2L. I was consistently doing F2L around 15 through 18 seconds, which is not ideal. So for the F2L, the main things a person like me needed to work on was recognition and execution of cases and look ahead. While it is considered early for look ahead, I felt that if I introduced it early on, it would be better for me. Out of all of those, I thought learning and executing cases was the most important. Right here, I'm showing some of the F2L cases and how I execute them, but most of them can be found in this video. The reason why I recommend learning advanced F2L early on is pretty simple. The earlier you introduce efficient ways of doing cases, the easier it will be for you to identify and execute them. A lot of the times, the cases that are done intuitively often match their algorithm counterpart. This means that a lot of the algorithms you'll be seeing on an F2L sheet or an advanced F2L video will match up to what you would usually do intuitively. So a good video to watch is JPerm's advanced F2L video. In this video, JPerm shows and explains a lot of the F2L cases. He also explains what the difference between intuitive and advanced F2L is. So I highly recommend watching his video. Again, it will be linked in the description down below. So now we'll be moving on to look ahead. I would not recommend learning look ahead unless you're approaching the sub-20 mark. If you aren't sub-20 yet, you should be focusing on learning and identifying all the F2L cases and executing them quickly. Now if you're approaching the sub-20 mark, I recommend you learning what look ahead is and being aware of it. Even if you are approaching the sub-20 mark, you shouldn't be putting all your energy into learning look ahead. Now here's some really good and helpful videos that help explain and show what look ahead is. A lot of these videos will be on JPerm because he's generally just a good YouTuber and cuber. But in short, look ahead is used in the F2L stage. Look ahead is where when you're solving one pair, you're constantly looking around to see what your next pair would be. This skill often determines how fast or slow your solves can be. F2L isn't the only thing that affects your solves. Cross to F2L transition and last layer can also factor in how quick your solves are. Here are some notable videos that you should be also watching to help improve your F2L. Another thing I want to add is that even though 72 F2L cases might seem daunting at first, a lot of the cases are pretty easy, and if you visualize them, then you'll get them pretty easily. Anyways, aside from F2L, here's my average of 100 that determined if I was sub-20 or not. Fun fact, I actually managed to capture my PB single of 12 seconds in the average of 100, so make sure you're looking out for that. But anyways, let's move on to the cross. When you're doing the cross, you want to do it around 8 moves or less. Now, at first, solving the cross under 8 moves efficiently might be extremely difficult, but it will come with more experience. Now, here are some really good cross tutorials. In there will be the cross +1 tutorial. It's a more advanced technique, but it will be helpful just knowing. Getting your cross down can be extremely helpful to your solves, especially later when every second counts. Now moving on to last layer. Finger tricks, execution, and recognition are extremely important. You usually want your last layer to be 9 seconds or less. Now at first, recognition, especially for PLL, could be extremely hard. Now there's a very easy and simple exercise you could be doing so you can improve your PLL and OLL recognition. To do this exercise, solve your cube up to PLL. When you get to PLL, cover the back side and either the left or right side of the cube, and then try to identify the PLL case from just the two sides showing. Once you do that, try executing the PLL and doing the AUF blindfolded as quickly as possible. Now this is a tip and exercise that personally helped me a lot in my PLL recognition, and it was explained by Brody the Cuber. For both OLL and PLL, you really want to be trying to get your recognition down as fast as you can. Doing exercises and practicing recognition and execution can be extremely helpful. Also remember to be practicing AUF, as you don't want to be stumbling at the very last moves of your solve. Now another really big thing about last layer is your execution. If you aren't using really good or advanced finger tricks, that might be slowing down your times by around a second, which is a lot. As for me, I found this the most difficult thing. The reason why was because I didn't think finger tricks were important. So don't be like me and learn your finger tricks as early as possible. If you learn your finger tricks early on, you'll be able to make your solves much more efficient in F2L and last layer. Learning these finger tricks early on really helps you with your OLL and PLL and getting it down as fast as you can. If you don't know any advanced finger tricks, or even if you do, you should be watching these 3 videos. These videos are a really good example of how advanced finger tricks can be used in OLL and PLL. Now, there are a lot of algorithms and sites out there, and sometimes it could be overwhelming on which algorithms or sites you should be using. So here are my top 3 sites that you should be using. Now, the first site is going to be jperm.net. jperm.net is made by jperm himself, and it provides many lessons, algorithms, and even an algorithm trainer that I think is what makes this site so good. Now on this site there's hundreds of algorithms you can be choosing from, but the main ones are the ones that jperm himself uses. On jperm's channel you can find an OLL and PLL finger trick video. A lot of the finger tricks correspond to the algorithms that are presented on the website. Now the best feature that makes this one of my favorite sites to use is their algorithm trainer. The algorithm system they have on their website is very straightforward and helps you learn algorithms as fast as you can. The trainer allows you to time each of your algorithms and see how fast you can execute it. You can also filter out your algorithms by what you're learning, what you're not learning, or which solves are the slowest. That one feature is probably the most important out of all, and that's why jperm.net is one of my favorite sites to use for cubing. Now moving on to AlgDB. AlgDB.net is known for their plethora of algorithms. A lot of these algorithms are pretty good, and if you aren't liking the ones on jperm.net, you can always use these ones. AlgDB can provide you with any algorithm from any algorithm subset or set. A lot of the algorithms on there are extremely good, and you can't really go wrong with any of them. It really comes down to your personal preference and what your turning style is. Now the next website is going to be StyleTheKing. StyleTheKing is one of the first websites I've been using for cubing, and it's rich in 2x2 information as well as 3x3 information. You can find a lot of the algorithm sets on there, such as OLL, PLL, Wall Glass Lot, Winter Variation, TCLL. I personally like this website because it gives me so many algorithms and sets in one place, and it's very organized and the design is really good. So moving on, I asked on Reddit to see if anyone had any questions for being sub-20. Now one of the questions was, how should I be practicing? Now there isn't a specific practice method you should be doing. There's one that I highly recommend, and I'm going to state it here. Now the first thing I'm going to be talking about is being in a flow state. Being in a flow state is when you're extremely concentrated and doing one thing. In this case it's cubing. I find that if I'm extremely focused and not distracted, I tend to do the best in my solves. Now to get into this state, I usually just try to block out any distractions, maybe put on some music, and just focus on my cubing. Now the thing I'm focusing on is what I'm trying to improve, and this goes into the second thing. What things am I struggling in? So to find out what things you're struggling in, I use these splits, and this can be found in jperm's Sub-20 video. The splits are CFOP, the cross should be 15%, the F2L should be around 50%, OLL should be around 14%, and PLL is around 20%. I know that doesn't add up to 100, but this is a rough calculation, which should get you the splits that you should be aiming for. So that would be, if you're trying to aim for sub-20, your cross should be around under 3 seconds, your F2L should be under 11 seconds, your OLL under 4 seconds, and your PLL under 6 seconds. This can also be applicable up to sub-15 or maybe in sub-10, so just recalculate. So using those splits, you should be able to find out what you should be working on. And once you find out what you should be working on, you should set small goals to achieve that. So if you're trying to get your F2L down to, let's say, 12 seconds from 13 seconds, maybe you're just trying to do F2L averages and do these small little goals. The reason why I say to do small goals is because you're always going to be seeing yourself improving. If you're saying, oh, I want to take my F2L from 13 to 8 seconds, then that's going to take a very long time. If you say, oh, I want to take my F2L from 13 to 11 seconds, then you will probably see that in like a week or maybe 2, maybe 3, however long it takes you, but you'll be seeing progression, which really helps motivation. So that's all I have for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it down below. I'll be sure to reply. And make sure you check the description too, as all the videos mentioned in this video will be linked there, and all the channels and websites should be there. So thank you for watching. Please share it, and I hope you guys get sub-20. I forgot to mention that I'll also be posting 2 new videos later this month. I'm going to be learning how to do blind solve, and I have the new Celeritas GTS 3M and the new Mystic loops. So be sure to watch those, and thank you for watching.